Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 is indeed a budget for all Singaporeans that provides generous support for individuals, families, as well as businesses to address current cost pressures. I am glad to see further steps announced by PM Wong on nurturing a caring and inclusive society. I will touch on a few points on this later in my speech. I will first focus on the longer-term investments in the budget that look to strengthening Singapore's growth, giving Singaporeans quality jobs, and helping Singaporeans be ready for the future of work. This gives hope for the future and will make Singapore a place where our people are proud to call home and want to nurture their families here. In order to have opportunities, it is vital that Singapore continues to grow sustainably and is ready to handle future challenges. It is worth noting that the Budget 2025 is allocating funds to signal the continued investments in technology and innovation engines, as well as to address Singapore's resource constraints. These are critical for Singapore to continue to grow. While Singapore has strong fundamentals, being an open economy, global political tensions and escalating trade conflicts and disruptions to supply chains pose challenges. Singapore must adapt to evolving conditions and uncertainties. It is therefore important that we continue to create and sustain value for companies both local and foreign to want to anchor their businesses in Singapore. PM Wong announced a substantial top-up of $3 billion to the National Productivity Fund, or the NPF, and the NPF will support businesses as they drive initiatives and commit resources to adopt new technologies, modernize and upskill their workforce. The $1 billion in R&D infrastructure will support the development of advanced facilities and equipment to attract top researchers and foster collaboration between academia and industry. In the biotech and semiconductor sectors, the additional $5 billion into the Future Energy Fund is significant. It reflects a commitment to driving Singapore's energy transition and securing cleaner power sources such as hydrogen, electricity imports, and the feasibility of nuclear. The government has committed to sustain investment in R&D to about 1% of GDP. Research, Innovation and Enterprise, or RIE 2025, announced in 2020, with the $3 billion top-up in last year's budget, totals to $28 billion. With the additional $1 billion R&D infrastructure in this year's budget, it will amount to $29 billion. Now it is almost 5 years since the launch of RIE 2025, and given the importance of the investments in R&D for growth and in innovations, it would be opportune to have an update on the progress and achievements of RIE 2025 and an understanding of the framing of the next phase of investments. Budget 2025 includes several measures to support businesses cope with rising costs. These include the enhancements to the Progressive Wage Credit Scheme, corporate income tax rebates and cash grant, and enhancements to the Enterprise Financing Scheme, the redesign of the SkillsFuture Enterprise Credit Scheme from a reimbursement to a digital wallet with the additional 10,000 credit for companies that hire at least 3 resident workers will definitely help companies offset out-of-pocket expenses for workforce transformation initiatives. The $150 million Enterprise Compute Initiative to support companies adopt AI solutions introduced in this budget is timely. It will enable businesses to access AI tools, computing resources, as well as specialized expertise from global cloud services providers, which would otherwise not have been available or be too costly, especially for our smaller businesses. But to truly reap the benefits of AI, businesses will have to do their part. What will be key for them is not just the adoption of AI, but the transformation of their business processes and integration. And I think we need to recognize this is not easy. The schemes to support businesses announced in this year's budget, together with existing schemes, are significant in helping them adapt and grow. Although I must say that in our meeting with business leaders, many did say, not enough. But I think more importantly, they did acknowledge, after a little bit of reminder, that there are loads of schemes. But the feedback from business leaders is that while support is available, it can be quite complex to navigate and to apply and utilize. There are resources and support available to help businesses utilize these schemes, but the ease of utilization does vary based on the specific schemes as well as the business's familiarity with that particular process. Business leaders are asking for streamlining of the support schemes, and it would be of great help to companies if they could engage a single point of contact for more integrated and coordinated support as they apply and utilize the schemes. Now let me touch on jobs. Why do we need sustained growth and successful businesses? It's really for quality jobs and opportunities for Singaporeans. But the labor market is changing rapidly. The changes are impacting both companies and workers. The demand for specialized skills in technology and innovation, such as AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, digital marketing, will continue to grow. Companies are facing challenges in finding and retaining talent with the relevant expertise, especially in new and emerging technologies. And despite Singapore's high employment rate, the pace of change and technological changes has led to job insecurity and anxiety. A recent Insight article in the Straits Times cited the Institute of Policy Studies 2023 report and a 2025 survey on economic sentiments by the NTUC, highlighting respondents' concerns of jobs not existing in the future or losing their jobs as companies transform and restructure. And most recently, we've also heard of companies talking about reapplying for even the jobs that you're in. The measures to strengthen skills future and encourage lifelong learning in Budget 2025, together with Skills Future Level Up program and the new Skills Future Workforce Development Grant, will support and encourage workers and employers to upskill and to build new capabilities for the longer term as businesses transform. But I do, however, worry about workers who lose their jobs due to disruptions, especially matured workers, and their finding appropriate employment. In my engagements with residents during house visits, and most recently last weekend during a dialogue on the budget, concerns were raised about getting a job when their jobs are disrupted, especially amongst our matured workers. Many shared that they made multiple job applications and either did not get a response and an opportunity to interview. With the rapid changes and transformation that companies need to make, jobs will be disrupted. So while workers must continue to upskill and employers will train their workforce and build new capabilities, there still needs to be more direct job matching and more targeted industry-specific reskilling to help workers transition when they're in their jobs to new and growth sectors and to address the challenges faced by both workers and businesses. So this is not going to be easy, but it's something that we all have to do because the disruptions will happen on both sides. I do welcome the setting up of the tripartite work group on senior employment to conduct a comprehensive and longer-term review of senior employment policies to improve the employability of seniors and availability of jobs that better suit their needs. I do hope that the work will also consider senior employability in the context of an intergenerational workforce and how to tap the potential of matured workers in a diverse workforce, because they don't work in a vacuum. It is not just about finding suitable jobs for seniors, but how our economy can tap this resource of talent. For employers, hiring of seniors will require a mindset change. While employers may not necessarily or consciously discriminate for age, there may be concerns or unconscious bias in the consideration of hiring of matured workers. I've received feedback from residents who've been retrenched that they face situations where potential employers inform them that although they are suitable for the jobs, they are reluctant to hire them even when they're prepared to take a lower pay than their previous salary, because the concern is that the worker may not stay because they are so used to a certain level of jobs. But this really requires both sides. One to say, I'm prepared to do it, but the other has to be able to get the opportunity. And so it really is also not just about policies, not just about processes, not just about support, but mindsets. Now let me move on to nurturing a caring and inclusive society. I'm heartened by the measures announced by PM Wong to nurture a caring and inclusive society, to make Singapore a place where people aspire to call home and have families. Many of the measures in the budget will help the sandwich class as they care for both their children and parents. There are too many measures for me to discuss in my speech, and I'm quite sure Speaker will be happy that I'm not going to touch on all of them because that would take too long. So I will focus on the enabling of our seniors to age well and long-term care services. With a rapidly aging population, the enhancements to the grants, that is the Home Care Giving Grant, or HCG, and the Senior Mobility Enabling, or the SMF, and Assistive Technology Fund, the ATF, and increases in the subsidies for residential, home, and community long-term care services, as well as the raising of the maximum qualifying per capita household income to $4,800, will indeed help many families as they care for their seniors. Last year and the year before, I made the appeal in the budget debate for review and refinement of the means test criteria for senior long-term residential and non-residential care. I am now sounding like a broken record, but as annual value continues to be a means test criterion to determine eligibility for those with no per capita household income, I'm asking for a refinement of how AV is used as the primary criterion to determine eligibility in this instance. I'm not asking for no means testing. Based on how the current eligibility criteria are applied, those with no PCHI or income and living in a property with AV greater than 21,000 will not be eligible for any subsidy or grant. With the increase in property value, most of the residents living in even small condo units and landed terraces in my constituency in Changi Simei will not be eligible. Many are retirees who bought their homes long ago and are asset-rich, but may be cash poor. The cost of elder care services is not insignificant. Depending on the level of care needed without subsidies, daycare services can cost from $945 to $1,430 per month. Nursing home from $2,200 to $4,200 per month without subsidies. So indeed, instead of a 0% or no support for those with no PHCI, and they live in properties with AV value greater than 21,000, could consideration be given for at least a tiered support? Over the weekend, I met one of my residents who's in her 70s, taking care of her mother who's in her 90s. And she shared that it would really be helpful because she's retired, she's living in a small terrace, and she said it would really be helpful if she got some help for nursing home care because it's getting just so costly and it's an ongoing cost. But I must thank PM Wong for not forgetting this group of residents and extending the climate vouchers to all Singapore citizens' households living in private property, as well as the enhancement of Active Seniors Program, or the EASE. Residents in private properties have not been eligible for many support schemes, as has been discussed many times, but many of our senior residents living in private properties are sometimes asset-rich and maybe cash poor. So extending these benefits do provide support for sustainable living and essential home improvements as our seniors age. So thank you for including that because they were very happy. In fact, many of my residents were very, very happy. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 is a budget that has listened, taking feedback from the Forward Singapore conversations, as well as the many feedback from all channels. It is inclusive, with more given to those with less. It is a budget for all Singaporeans, and I'm confident it will help us move onward together for a better tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I support this budget.